Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another installment of the inevitable. This is Coyote Pro. This is the second part of the Coyote Pro because when I unboxed the Coyote and I went over the stuff that they had done, they had indeed done a lot of things right. So many things right that basically Tuxedo Dan, the Coyote, came along and displaced the base camp build, which we had gone through a bit of an arduous process to get it to like where I thought it should be. I had to do a lot less to this. You can sort of run it right out of the box. It is imperfect. The shocks don't appear to leak. We don't have them in a long-term configuration yet, but they don't fit. They're not sprung right. 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. They did correct a lot, and they made a whole lot better. And this is Tuxedo Dan, what I am calling the Coyote Pro, because this is indeed a Coyote Pro. We're still on portals, but we have replaced the AR45Ps with Pro 45 portals, which are great axles. And I will point out, Axial gets it right, and at the same time, they managed to also not get it right. They do it all the time, because while I was assembling this, I did take special note that we've got towing in the rear. This axle is kind of bananaed. A little bit of towing in the rear. And I believe that is because plastic housing, and there's no consistent tube that goes through to orient the tubes. The front's not doing it, and I believe that's because it has a really short on one side and a long on the other side. We're going to get a sort of, it's going to roll in around the same amount of time, a little bit of a Cliff Notes version, because I did indeed go through all the processes to get this thing into running configuration. It's what you do is you don't look at it, right? You don't take these things into account where we look at what it cost to buy the RTR. We look at what it costs for the axles and the electronics that are now installed and the dig unit and all that. It is what it is, because there are parts of effectively 3 rigs combined into one, enough parts set aside to definitely work on another project, and then one that, another one. So, Tuxedo Dan, the Coyote Pro, I literally, in the last one, I just took the gearbox, which was from the Basecamp RTR. I took the gearbox out of that because I had already installed a dig module, and I just flopped the gearboxes from one to the other. I did indeed remove the whole front truss piece. I found a Delrin chassis spacer from I'm not sure what, and that was when I learned that I knew they were handed. You see, we got the cutout for where the servo would go on that one, and this one doesn't. There's also a little rib, so I had to take this over the lathe, turn a little flat on it, and then literally just put 2 screws through it. It has that near no triangulation front end. It's got a little bit on the lower, but not really anything on the upper. So you get a little bit of, you get that slop over. VRDs do the same thing. That allowed us to put the battery tray back on. Of course, dropping that in was no problem. The most notable change, you will notice that the shocks are red. The full intention, where are you, was to install the Reefs XP shocks and use this as a test platform for the Reefs XP shocks. And I'm going to give you let's set them here in frame. I'm going to give you the long of the short of it, which is I gave up. That's the short of the long of it. The long of it is I drained one, which was filled with 300 CST, around 27.5 weight, which is what Reefs claims they designed them for, which provides 0 damping. There's absolutely no damping with oil of that weight. They just shoot back. I mean, this is what we strive for around here. And these are Amazon chavs. These are the black cap red body, which I purchased on inexplicable sale. Things on Amazon go on sale all the time. These were $10, $9.99 for the set of 4. I replaced the pistons with Traxxas 2669s. I take the 2-hole pistons, I drill the holes out to 1.4 millimeter with a piston drill set, which allows me to fill them with low C40 weight, and you get this performance here. It is the stock springs in the rear, 1.2 pound, 0.8 pound deluxe softs in the front. Is it too soft in the front? No. Is it too firm in the rear? Maybe. It's got a little bit of a hijacker stance to it. But this thing is not particularly flyweight. So during weight transfer on ascent, the 1.2 pound might be just the absolute ticket. I changed the spur and the pinion because it's got a 2300 in it. And as you saw, when we slow crept into frame, yet at the same time. Also, can we take note here for a moment? Most of the noise of an LCXU is brought about by that gear cover. So I just use zip ties to zip tie the wire to the back, and then we're just going to leave them out in the open because I really enjoy this. I puttered it around on the floor here, testing the dig. It's very quiet. I still think these tires are too big. It's almost like an axial high trail because there's a signal, and with the bumper all the way back at the tire, our approach and departure are going to be great. Side hilling, always a question mark. It didn't really require much. Oh, back onto this. Drained the 300 CST, filled them with Traxxas 80,000. Felt like nothing. Felt like they were basically empty. I was starting to question if I had built them properly, but I mean, what other way is there to build them? Because the piston is so small, and because they did indeed use a lock nut to secure it, and then the shaft itself, there is so much volume being displaced that you literally put like 15 drops of oil in there. And as there is no bleeding mechanism, there's no groove in the threads, there's no bleeder screw, there's nothing. Because of that, the only way to get this shock, that is a, see how it's slowed down a little? One of them is unfilled. That one's got something in it. That shock is empty. I don't know if I can manage to do two at the same time. You have to use a Q-tip and dab a little bit of oil out, thread it back together, make sure, dab a little oil out. And then when you pop it open, the oil, because you have to leave such a big air gap, the oil is just froth. So, I mean, they are emulsion shocks. They're not bladdered, but there's no reason that anyone should have to go through this amount of work or spend this amount of money. When I did the quick view on these and I tore them down, they are well made. And I did mention that them being all proprietary was one of the problems. And then the other problem is there's no way to bleed them. Now, there's no way to bleed a number of shocks. Traxxas GTS don't have a slot or a bleeder hole or anything like that, but they use a plastic cap. And you can just press this in and the oil will squidge out, and then you tighten it down and then you check it. They're very simple, and there's more volume. And I rate the GTS as a very small volume shock. And there's more room for oil in a GTS than there is in the Reefs XP. So if the Reefs XP are on the bench and a grand total of $35 worth of shocks, and that is the shocks, I'm sorry, $25. $10 for the shocks, $10 for both the pistons and the rebuild kits, the TRA 2362s, and the pair of deluxe springs. So we're talking, there are $25 in shocks on this vehicle in place of the north of $100 for the Reefs XP. And I would take these 10 times out of 10, nay, 100 times out of 100. The AGFRC 60 kg is, if anything, too much And because we are double cardoned, we can do this. Let's get all the steering angle in the world. There's none of that camming where one wheel is outspeeding the other. I looked and I labored and I debated and I was like, what are we going to do? I took a Dremel and as I said I would, I just shaved the very back of this edge off. So now we have full compression, and full compression straight up. And then in the front, because we were having that little issue hitting, I was like, what are we going to do? Are we going to change the horn? And I was like, no, I like the angle of the horn. The drag length seems about the right length. So we're using red concave washers there. Underneath those concave washers on the other side of the servo are red concave washers, because it raised it right about that 2 millimeters that we needed. So now the drag length doesn't hit anything, because it was hitting right along this edge. And I didn't want to grind it down because there's not as much to that front edge. I did mention went from the 56 to a 60. That is the spur gear from a 10 Pro. I did not look at all at what gears are in the portals, nor what gears are in the pumpkins, because I can't remember. It looks like nothing. I'm going to say it's nothing. I'm going to say this vehicle is going out on the rocks right now on 0. I was what were these paired with? OD3. Yeah, those were paired with an OD3, which has been an 18%. So we've got 830 stock portal gears. So we have a lot of options on this if we want to add any underdrive or overdrive, because there's none in the box and there's none in the axle. So we're going on 000. This is kind of effectively the new Ghost Ride, because we took him out on his RTR run. We did a little bit of a tinkering in the $200 episode, and most of the stuff in the $200 episode has been removed and replaced because wants over needs. I wanted a Coyote Pro and I had the parts to make one, so I made it. I don't think these are the tires. I still think they're too tall. The ground clearance, sitting static, we've got perfectly level links. They are perfectly leveled out. And under the skid, just under 70 millimeters at the front. Now, please do take into account, this is a C-channel Bowie. So we have a flat skid. There's no kick. There's no angle on the skid. We do have a big old gearbox with a Fusion Pro on it. And I would like to point out that the LCXU in the Basecamp and or Coyote, with the way it's configured, where they have this giant, there's a finger-sized gap underneath the motor because they had to raise the motor up real high on the motor plate to clear the rail. Because they did that, we're going to raise the CG. It's just how it is. The motor is higher than, look at where the motor is. Then go look at a VRD Carbon where the motor's down here in between the rails. So our CG is going up. But your selection of motor and gearing choice, like, this is 1060 on the gearing, and we're basically right in the middle of the screw, and the motor can go either way. You could probably comfortably run a 50 tooth spur on here, and you could run, I would say, I wouldn't go bigger than a 60. That thing is getting real close to the front drive shaft at the 60. But it is quite nice and quite smooth. I had to do very little. The front link Olympics that we had to do in the front to get those uppers was basically to be expected, because with that BTA, you never know where things are going to line up. But like adjustment wise, I don't know if I've gotten the endpoints quite right for the Dig servo, because I just reset them when we paired him to the new to his radio. But other than that, I am looking forward to this. Genuinely looking forward to this, because I have this thing, right, where the question is always, how far can we get on a C channel? because the C channel presents all those limitations. We don't have link mount options. The front uppers go where the front uppers go, the rear uppers go where the rear uppers go. You can indeed 4-link this, and 4-link between C channels a lot of times just doesn't work. We can run BTA on here and everything clears. There's absolutely no clearance issues now with a little bit of grinding of the plastic because, you know, I don't know if they never intended for it or never anticipated, but it goes. And I wanted BTA and I wanted 10 Pros and I wanted it like this. And if this thing drives even remotely close to my expectations, we're probably going to take a look at gearing, get into maybe a 20%. We can do it. He's kind of snappy on the floor. He's kind of snappy on the 2300. The easiest one would be to get 1421 portal gears, slap him in the front, have 20% overdrive, and be done with it. But 2300 is kind of brisk, so I would more likely 833 and an 827, both of which I think I have. So, there he is, Tuxedo Dan. We're going to see if we can keep his hat intact today. It's not, we're going to have to build him a hat, I feel like. This is his original hat, but it's about the firmness level of a RC four-wheel drive insert. So when I try to do stupid self-righting moves, it tends to tear his hat off. So, pip. Oh, here we go. Tuxedo Dan ran across the scales this morning, 3220. 3,220 grams, which means, yes, that is correct, ladies and gentlemen. Tuxedo Dan weighs more than our Class 3 tire test rig, Wolverine. Wolverine is built on a metal cage, but he has a lot of lighter bits to him. 5941 on the weight distribution, 1893 on the front axle, 1327 on the rear, and that is scaled exactly as he is configured right now. The splits look pretty good. Basically 945 on the front right, 948 on the front left. The rear, we got about 60 grams wandering around, 693 and 635. And the cross weights, he's 4951. Front left, right rear is carrying 62 more grams. So almost 2 ounces, carrying 2 more ounces. And I don't explicitly know where that is coming from, because looking at the distribution of items on the vehicle, I can't see where 2 more ounces. It could be springing. It could be any number of things, but it is, I would call it within margin. So we'll run him just exactly like this. We will tire testable next time around, and I am still looking at the rack and picking and choosing, because we can't test 10 tires on here. And last count, I was like, yeah, there's like 12 that I would probably try on there. And I mean, out of 12, we got to get one, right? So he goes as he is. Tuxedo Dan, the Coyote Pro. Don't necessarily try this at home, but if you want to, by all means. So you and I and he and us all as a collective, out to the rocks we go. And we roll onto the course 55, 1365, and had a little bit of rain day before yesterday relative to this recording, but it's fairly shadowed, and it is one of those prototypical Southern California mornings. Shade, cold to us. Sun, quite warm. These rocks won't see sun for another 3 or 4 hours, so they should be, yeah, there we go. I was going to say they should be fairly optimized. I have to remember I have dig, but I have dig and a tremendous amount of steering angle. As I've said, aside from width, functionally, it's not that big of a difference between a Pro 45 and an AR 45P. But man, do I prefer these. Well, I mean, placement of the servo. And you put 60 kg right there, it doesn't have to do a lot. Oh, little slide. The Trep, regardless of its origin and configuration, it likes weight. So this is not the absolute worst tire. We're 2 pounds heavier than, we're 1,000 grams, almost 1,000 grams heavier than it was in OE configuration. And yeah, endpoints are close. Yeah, as I said, close. But not quite there. It's basically impossible to set dig endpoints on the bench. Yeah, that low is real good. And you know, look at under the belly. You could drive your SCX 24 right up the middle. And I'm a big damping guy. I want a shock that is pretty slow. A bit over damped is 1,000% better than a bit under damped. So if the shock action is a little slow relative to the spring, and I've got the rear rate is 50% higher than the front rate, and I have the same oil all the way around. It's the 40 weight all the way around. I don't do a lot of oil weight splits. Let's see. Okay, without a dig, where's this going to come around? Can't get me quite where I wanted to go, but oh, yeah. Canyon Customs, of course, with an extra wrap of fridge foam. So 3 layers of fridge foam around the outside to make up for the additional height of the Trepador, and particularly these, which are half the thickness of GA Trepadors. Okay, now, the only issue is which direction. Right. Give it a couple. Yeah. Okay, now let's try it again. Let's go right back to where we were. Come down. Give it a dig. I just added 5% to either side. It's an Injora 7kg with one of the little Injora aluminum replacement horns that replaces the whole axial mechanism. There's something about a Pro. 6-to-1 spurt opinion. Portals. Fusion Pro. We can go real slow. I don't know. Trep's not looking bad. And, you know, we do take into consideration that we have the breakover of a C-channel rig, flat down the middle. So we are definitely benefiting in situations where it is valuable. We are benefiting from the fact that on that tire, on these axles, you're not going to scrape up your skid plate very much. There's that 0-0. Get it right more here, right there. Show me what you got, Treps. I don't know if he can pull over that side. Oh. Now, I mean, if we go over this way, I was trying to get tighter over to that rock. Suspension looks great. I'm going to go on record. This is a big reason why I like the 10 Pro Portal as much as I do. That's a lot of steering angle. That's a lot. It's an amount of steering angle where you're going to use dig sparingly. Trep doesn't mind dig it. Get over. Get over. right there, right there. Not precisely there. I realize we have 10% less because those AR-45Ps had overdrive in the front. There it goes. Now, if you can get the handling that you want on zero, 50-50 split, then by all means do that. Like underdrive or overdrive, a differential in wheel speed, front to rear, is going to be beneficial in some situations and is not going to be beneficial in others. Side hilling loves a 50-50 split. Descending is a big fan of a 50-50 split. Turning circle is improved by torque split, but say we want to go back from whence we came. We can do that. And because we've got the steer angle of double cardan fitted 10 Pro portals, remember what I said about descending? Ay, ay, ay. Honestly, 10%? Put like a trailing amount in there? Because he won. He won. Because when we're talking about like I believe that 10 to 12% area that we get from stock gearboxes and whatnot, I don't think that any tire is really can be negatively impacted by that amount, right? If we're talking 30%, 38%, 46%, when you're talking about those big numbers, some tires do not like it. The Trep here is loving not 50-50. And on my trail rig, I run Treps and 10%. So it might be, they're sitting on the bench right now from the last episode. They haven't been moved. I can just pull the gears out of those and just literally swap the whole, the stub and all, and just put the 10% in here. 10% faster at the front axle. Well, let's see. Let's get down here. Go over there. No, we can go slower. Slower? I think we can get away with it. I think we can put 10% overdrive in the front and just so keep a little bit of his stock bits down there, down low. As it loaded that rear end, I have my throttle at 10% right now. As it loaded that rear end, the rear wheels were like, I think we need to stop. And then FOC said, we stop for nothing. Always be moving is the motto of Hobby Wing FOC. Well, he's looked great so far, so you know what we do. Y'all know what we do. Get thee to the side hill. So who will win this impromptu battle? Will the advantage of who? Tuxedo Dan, where are you going? Will the advantage of no torque differential be able to combat 70 millimeters at the skid? Like right there, that is straight monster trucking. Look at that pumpkin in the rear because we got those tires kind of, we're almost fully crossed up here. It's got to be, there's 100 millimeters between that pumpkin and the ground. It's wild. Let's see, what do you got, Trep? It's not fully collapsing on the low side. Now right here, it's going to transfer all of this weight. And then we're going to cheat. Yeah. It needs just a little bit. And I genuinely, I'm on record. I think for some things, I just think that tire is too tall. If we had put 10 Pro straights on here, I think the Treps might be the jam. I still maintain a lot of the releases that we've seen fairly recently, I think the Element Comp Fox should have had straights on it. I think the Coyote should have had straights on it. From out of the box, it should have just had straight up AR-45s on it. And I think with this tire, I think with the 5-inch tire, you'd be better off. I'm gonna actually try to get in a little lower. Like, these grip really well. It's really surprising to me how good these are. That was an excellent little pivot right there, and that should line us up. Ooh, that weight just throws down. It's here that I'm feeling it. It wants to put it down. I mean, I'm over dramatizing. As soon as I saw a passenger front dip, just that tiny dip, I was like, yeah, we got it. I don't think that the tire is perfect. I think in terms of an OE fitted tire, it's the best Axial has done without competition since the 1.9 Ripsaw, which is ye olden times. Since our day of drizzle, I don't think that pepper tree has dried out at all. Look how low that thing is hanging. It's all the way down. Like, there's a spot we usually do a little pirouette where we would be inside the tree at this point. Yeah, they're not doing too bad at all. I still never stop making them. That's the first note. Proline. Never stop making the G8 Trepador. But can anyone explain to me why they're 5 inches tall? I know the sidewall says 4.9, but they are 5. Now this, we might get the same side hill action here where we overload. No, weight stayed down. Weight stayed down in the front. It's not all disadvantages. It is give and take. This whole endeavor is an exercise in compromise. That pepper tree will grab you. Yeah, like right through here, these are great. Not the best dig tire I've ever seen, but by no means terrible. Certainly not even in the conversation for the worst. And they have a lot of directionality to them. And they're marked directionally. Thank you for that, Trepador. This is a come up for the Trep. Aside from the little Class 1 RC 4-wheel drive scrambler, we've never really seen anything that was completely Trepador patterned, rock crawl even modestly well. Certainly not. What the hell was that? Oh, it was a dog. You ever get that blur out of the corner of your eye? And I was like, that was too big to be a rabbit. Too tall to be a cat. It's a neighbor dog. Yeah, right in through here. Again, look at the daylight under that guy. That is absurd. 5-inch tire and a portal. And I'm not saying that I don't have a number of those. I got a number of 525s in portals. But if I'm putting a 525 and a portal together, it's generally going to have a cage in the middle of it, or a very slim body like a stage killer. I think that in the grand spirit of compromises, I think if we go to a tire that's notably shorter than this one, I think the benefits will outweigh. I should have dug. I can get right here. Make sure that pumpkin's clear. We got to get the pumpkin clear. We're drying it off. Yeah, we just can't quite pull it. But because they're so tall, this little lip provides issue for many, and not here. Sometimes the 5-inch tire is an advantage. We'll dig, swing it. They're not bad at all. Somebody needs to straight axle their Coyote. Do a Coyote straight, and then stick with these tires. Stick with the OE Treps. I think that's a hotter ticket. I think because we've got 12 millimeters of portal drop, I think we can afford to drop about 12 millimeters of tire height. And we're at like, what are these, like 124, 125? Yeah, that'd put us about right. Yeah. Down in that 115, 116 range. Something between a 4.5 and a 4.6. My brain is saying Baja MTZ. They're not bad though. I think they're just too tall. I think all the factors we've got together, I still think they're too tall. Because I will keep banging the drum. I don't believe there's no such thing as a perfect tire. There can be the perfect tire. Because the tire that really, this is why in any given fleet, if you have 5 rigs, there's a strong chance you're running at least 3 different tires in there, because unless you're building the same thing, I got 2 FMS FJ40s. They both have GA Troubadours on them because that is the perfect tire for that rig. The 10 to 16 pound FG40, those Treps on some silicones are dreamy. I think if they had decided to make the Coyote straight axle, there's a chance that the OE Troubadour, there's a chance that they could be the perfect tire for it. Because they're really good here. Let's see. It's very nearly got enough. Like, it's not perfect, but it is surprisingly good. And we have not really, we're not into that 5%. We're not at 95% yet. We got to get through the tires. I'm gonna throw those portal gears in there. It costs me nothing except about 10 minutes of my time to just take the front portal gears out of this and put them in those AR45s, and take the fronts out of those and put them in here and drop that 10% in. And I don't think it's really going to hurt us. I think it's going to be helpful across the board. The 90 millimeter shock is an absolute, regardless of what else you do to your Coyote. It needs a 90 millimeter shock. These are in the same holes that the hundreds were in, which is ridiculous. So we've actually increased up travel, which is nice. Removed a little bit of the down travel, which is also fine. And, as I pointed out, 0.8 in the front and 1.2 in the rear. Compare that to the 1.5 front and 2.6 rear that the Coyote comes with stock. And we haven't, not only have we not removed an appreciable amount of sprung weight, the servo, but then we added dig, and like, I think it's washing. We went from 8 pounds of spring rate, 8.2 pounds of spring rate, to 4. And it's better. Now, the wheels are heavier, so we added unsprung there. Then we put on Pro Portals with BTA, so that's moving the weight down even more. So we've added a bunch of weight to the vehicle. We've made 0 efforts to weight reduction. And I think that because trapdoors are involved, I don't think any of that has... Got a little lock there. We still don't quite have the... we don't have it quite right on the endpoints, but a way you can treat yourself. Once you get into dig, the faster the servo you've got on dig, just the nicer it is. Like, I've got a couple on the A20s, the AGFRC, what are they, A20 CLS? Those are fast. RS100, pretty fast. But there's one, the Torque CL 0508. It's like a heli servo. It's so fast. And because for dig it has to throw so short, I want to say it's got to be, it's like 0.04 on the throw. It's so fast. It's so fast. And because it's torquey enough, it will engage and disengage torque, dig so fast. It is definitely a treat yourself moment. See, on flat ground, but I mean, it's not like this thing has a huge, that turning radius, it cuts the turning radius by 66% on full dig. I mean, and this is 5-inch tall tire. Look at that little circle that it draws with the rear tire. That's a 10-inch circle. I'm not mad at anything here. We are definitely into the tuning phase, and I think that this tire, as it sits right here, compound-wise, composition-wise, it boggles my mind that it's a Trepador. Like a Trepador shouldn't. It ought to not. Because every experience we've had in the past with Trepadors has ranged between terrible to eh. And then you take a G8 Trep and you put 10 plus pounds on it and you go, oh, pretty good. Watch a Wheelin' Wednesday that's got those FJ40s in it. And that is what a heavily loaded Trepador can do. And what do? We added a bunch of weight to this, and what did the Trepadors do? They got better. Now, I'm not swapping out to a straight axle on here. This is my Coyote Pro. Don't break his hat. So your Coyote Pro may indeed look different. I'm really happy with where we are so far. Is my brain constantly saying, buy a tough color, take the plastic bits off and put it on the tough color and drop, geez, probably close to a quarter pound? Wasn't it a quarter pound different between the two? Drop a decent amount of weight. But we'll get through a tire testable. We'll get through, well, it'll have underdrive in it. I'm going to do the underdrive before we test the tires. I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. And you absolutely don't need to replace your AR-45s. You absolutely don't. This is wider. You could do it with $10 worth of hubs if you felt like that little bit of wider would help you. I'm running out of time. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. In between now and when we meet again, please, one and all, do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. Tuxedo Dan looks exactly like he did. Boy, he's driving good.